And I think in a second or so we'll go live. Check it on my phone that we are on. Okay, yeah, looks like we are live. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Close it down from here. Okay, so who would like to do the honors and lead us in Namokar Mantra today? I see Udyan raising the hand first, so I'll let Udyan do the honors. Udyan, I would greatly appreciate if you could do Namokar Mantra, and when we say Eso Panch, Namo Yaro, right? That's what I was told last time. It's not Namo Karo, it's Namo Yaro. So that's one thing. And if you know the Mangal part, go for it as well. Okay?
Nama Aryantam, Namo Siddhanam, Nama Aryanam, Nama Ovajayanam, Esopanche,
Namo Loe Savasahunam.
Namo Loy Savasahum, Esopanche, Namakaro,
Namo Yaro
Namo Yaro,
Savapava
Sava
Panashanam.
Mangalam Servicing, Perdum Have Mangalam.
Very good. Do you know the Mangal part? The
No.
four Mangals. Okay, I will recite that, and that you should remember what we covered in the, I think, first or second lecture, right? About Mangal part. So, how many Mangals are there? Four. Chittari Mangalam, which is there are four Mangals. Arihant Mangal, Siddha Mangal, Sahu Mangal, and Kevli Panatto Dhammo Mangal. These are the four Mangals or four auspicious things in this lok. Okay. Then Chittari Loguttama. There are four best things in the world. Chittari Loguttama means there are four best things. Arihanto Loguttama, Siddho Loguttama, Sahu Loguttama, Kevali Padattu, Dhammo Loguttama. So four things, right? Same four things are also the best. Now, next part is Chittari Saranam Pavajami. We should seek shelter in four things. What are those four things? Arihant Saranam Pavajami, Siddho Saranam Pavajami, Sahu Saranam Pavajami, Kevali Padato, Dhammo Saranam Pavajami. These are the four things where we should seek shelter nowhere else, right? We should seek shelter with the Siddha Bhagwan, with the Arihant Bhagwan, with the sadhus of our order, Jain sadhus, that is, Digambar Jain sadhus, and Kevali Panato Dhammo Saranam. That means we should seek shelter with the dharma that had been taught by the Kevali Bhagwans, right? We know who are Kevali Bhagwans. Kevali Bhagwans are the Bhagwan. There are two type of Kevalis. There are Tirthankar Kevalis, 24 of them, that we should, who have given us or ordained the dharma to us. And there are innumerable number of Samanya Kevalis, whose life lessons are something from which we should learn dharma. Now, there are Samanya Kevalis who are known to us, and then there are Samanya Kevalis who are not known to this world. Irrespective, any dharma which has been taught by Kevali Bhagwan is where we should seek shelter. Make sense, Praniti? Right? So I think along with Namokar mantra and not Namokar mantra, it's Ana. Ana is the hard N, right? We should all make conscious efforts to memorize Namokar mantra and also the Mangal part. Okay, so this 4 by the four Mangals and the 4 by 3 metrics that we have of Mangals and the best in the multiverse and the things that we should seek shelter to. These are the things we should remember. Okay, so that's where we'll start today. Now, before I start, do you know of a cultural festival that has just happened, like last, I think it is not this weekend, last weekend we had and when I say cultural festival, it is a festival which is celebrated by all the Hindu traditions in India. So do you remember what that festival was, which happened last weekend, if I'm not wrong? Yeah. Sarthak, go ahead, beta.
Navratri.
You are your voice is low. You want to come again?
Navratri.
Okay, Navratri is fine, but after Navratri, so Navratri is 9 nights. You are right. That is a festival that went in. What happened on the 10th day? There is a festival that is celebrated on the 10th day after Navratri. Just on the you are on mute, Sarthak.
Oh, it's Dashera.
Is Dashera. Yes. So, what is the significance of Dashera as per the Hindu or Sanatan tradition, the majority tradition in India? What is the significance, Arthak? I see your hand raised, so you can keep yourself unmuted and just answer it.
No, no,
You don't know the significance of Dashera?
no.
Okay, Udayan, go ahead.
I know that it's related to Diwali.
It's not related to it's not directly related to Diwali. Let me not please you. What do you think, Praniti, Mihika? Any answers? What is the
Um,
significance of Dashera or Vijay Dashmi?
I think it's so we can like because the so it's so we can like lead our lives to moksha. So we can
No, 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 no. Go ahead, Mihika. I'm
um
just looking for a very common answer, and then I will give you the significance in a Jain way. Mihika, go ahead.
Is it the burning of Ravana? Like the day Ravana was
Okay,
killed?
so yes, the day Ravan was killed, you are right. Right. So as per all the tradition in India, Vijay Dashmi or the 10th day of this month, right, as per the lunar calendar, just following Navratra, the Dashhara, that is the day which is considered as a day when in the battle that happened after the abduction of Sita, uh, Ravan got killed, right? So there, Jain tradition and the common Sanatan tradition or these other Hindu faith traditions are together. That this is the day when Ravan was killed, right? Now the question, and Arush, if I would greatly appreciate if you could also turn on your camera so I can see you. Arush, yes, thank you, Beta. Okay, so now we know that with help of a conversation here that Dashera or Vijay Dashmi is the day when it is said that Ravan was killed in the battle. The next question I have for you: what do you know about Ramayana and who killed Ravan? Okay, I see one hand raised, which is Udyan. So go ahead, Udyan. Who killed Ravan?
Rama. Lord
Okay.
Rama.
What if I tell you that's a wrong answer? Right? Exactly. You will make a face because that's what, as per Hindu tradition, it is believed that it is Rama or Ram Bhagwan or he killed Ravan, right? Uh, Okay. Now, Arush, one thing, it's okay. Today, I will allow you to have your dinner while you're on the class, but I would greatly appreciate if we can keep these two things separate, right? Attending a Jain class along with food is a viragna. It's not a good thing, right? We don't do that together. When we are learning or reading about Jainism, we have to show that activity some respect, and that way we should keep our food thing around it, right? Like I also wanted to have food because by the time I finished this class, it's sunset, so I had my food earlier, right, just before I just quickly finished over it. है ना? So let's be show some be more respectful to this activity. So today I'll allow you to stay on no camera, but going forward I would greatly appreciate if you everyone can finish their dinner before we get on the class. And I know it's late for you. It's like what, 9, 8, 9, whatever time it is. At my place, it's 5:30. Sun sets around 6:30, in Phoenix, 6:15, 6:30 this time of the year. So I also had my dinner beforehand. है ना? Okay. Anyways, that said, coming back to the topic. So Udayan said it is Rama who killed Ravan, and I'm telling him no, Rama didn't kill Ravan, right? And so what is this all about? First thing first, Ravan, as per and I'll shock you further, Udayan. Ravan, as per Jain tradition, is his soul. The soul that was in the shape of Ravan or had the life form of Ravan in the past life is currently is in hell because of its deeds, right? All the bad deeds and the exhibition of greed of lot of pride and ego that was there. Ravan's soul currently is in Narak, one of the Naraks. But Ravan's soul is destined to be the next, one of the next Tirthankars, actually the first one, if I'm not wrong. So, shocker, right? So I'm giving you two shockers so far, and I'll give you one more after this. One is as per Jain tradition, as per the Jain Ramayana, and let me put you the name of the Jain Ramayana. It's called as Padma Puran. Okay, and to be more precise, let's call it Jain Padma Puran, because I was also surprised that there is another scripture existing by the same name, which is a Hindu scripture. So if you are doing Google on it, do a Google for Jain Padma Puran, and you will be surprised to see the story. It's very fascinating. But the other, so second shocker was Ravan's soul is bound to become the next Tirthankar when the next Chobisi is going to happen in the next half cycle. Ravan is going to be the first Tirthankar. Shocker, shocker, right? Now, what happened? If Ram didn't kill Ravan, who did kill? So, for sure, Ravan was killed in the battle, right? And he got killed because of his bad deeds. He was actually a very revered soul. He was a very, a samyak drashti jeev with lot of knowledge, not kevalya gyan, but lot of knowledge. However, he did commit some bad acts, including the abduction of Sita, somebody else's wife. So obviously he was set to be punished because his bad karma caught up to him, right? Um, Having said that, because he had that knowledge in him and he had exhibited the 16 contemplations in his one of his lives, he is bound to become Tirthankar. Right now, that way, it is very important for us to understand that if a soul is bound to become a Tirthankar, even in their current life form, in the life form that is known as Ravan, we should be a bit respectful towards that soul. Even in Hindu tradition, Ravan is considered as a Brahmin, a learned Brahmin who was a big devotee of Shiva. In Jain culture, we consider him as a greatest of devotee of Shantinath Bhagwan. And because of that, he had many magical powers, which is what he should have used for betterment of society. But because of his ego, his pride, he ended up using it in bad shapes and forms. That's what happens, right? That's what happens. If you have power and if you end up using them in the wrong way, you are going to get fruition of those karma. You are going to get bad karma, and bad karma always catch up to you, right? So that's main thing. The third fact, so if Ram Bhagwan did, and I'm using the word Bhagwan very consciously, because even in Jain tradition, Ram Bhagwan, as it is known, actually in his later in his life, actually turned into a Digambar Muni and got Diksha and attained Kevalya Gyan. So Ram Bhagwan's soul currently is in Siddhavastha. Ram Bhagwan is one of those. Obviously, he's not a Kevali, he's not a Tirthankar, but Ram Bhagwan's soul currently is in Moksha. That way, Ram Bhagwan was a Kevali, a Samanya Kevali. So we obviously should be very much, we have to learn from his life because we seek, as I said, we say, we use the term first Mangal for the Siddh, then we use the term Loguttam for the Siddh, and then we say we seek shelter in the Siddh. And because Ram Bhagwan is a Siddh, his life is definitely a example for us to be followed, definitely. But not as Ram Bhagwan as a king, but Ram Bhagwan as a Siddh Purush, as a Siddh. Okay. Having said that, what is important thing here is if Ram Bhagwan did not kill Ravan, who did kill Ravan? Meka.
Wasn't it Lakshman who killed Ravan?
Perfect answer. You have stolen my thunder. Exactly. It is Lakshman who killed Ravan. Because why Ram? Why we Jains think Ram Bhagwan did not kill Ravan? Ram Bhagwan was a very, very pious soul. We consider him as a Balbhadra. Now, what is a Balbhadra, right? So I will give you a text for your later reading, but in Jain cosmology or in Jain storytelling, in the Jain Pratman Yog, we define a category of illustrious human beings that we call as Shalakha Purush. What do we call them? Shalakha Purush. Right? So in every time cycle, there are these Shalakha Purush, and their number is fixed to be 63. Out of these 63 Shalakha Purush or illustrious beings, 24 are Tirthankars, right? 12 are Chakravartis, and then a set of 9 plus 9 plus 9 are what we call as Vasudev or Narayan. That's another name for them, Narayan, or what we call as the heroes, right? And then you have Prati Vasudevs, or what we call as Prati Narayans. And the third category is whom we call as Balbhadra. Or some places the term uses Baldev. Okay, so totaling up to 63. So in Jain storytelling or Jain cosmology, there are these 63 illustrious beings. Out of them, 24 are Tirthankar, and we know about them. We should know their names by heart, right? But then there are these 12 Chakravartis. Chakravarti means these are like monarchs of the sixth continent. Those who are blessed with immense power and administrative capabilities, and by use of those, they have conquered to and are and are ruling the six continents. They are considered as 12 Chakravartis. And then there is this set of 9 heroes, 9 anti-heroes or Prati Vasudevs, and 9 Balbhadra who are the elder ones, right? So, and they don't all happen at the same time. They are all happening at different time in the time cycle during a time cycle. So we'll cover that topic another day, but that's what they are. Out of them, Ram Bhagwan was a Balbhadra. He was a Baldev, while Lakshman is considered as a Vasudev and Ravan is considered as a Prati Vasudev. So hero and anti-hero, and then the elder one. Elder one is like the elder brother or brother of Vasudev, and they always side with the Vasudev. They are the souls that are bound to go to moksha, right? So Ram Bhagwan, as per Jain tradition, is considered as a Vasudev in the or Narayans. In the Hindu tradition, Ram is considered as a Narayan only, which is what makes it a bit different. However, so we should know our Ramayans, right? So our Ramayan, as per our Ramayan, Ram Bhagwan is a Baldev. And Baldev, because they are bound to go to moksha, if they are bound to go to moksha in the next life, in the same life, how can they kill someone? How can then accrue? How can they commit that kind of act and have the karma bandh, right? So that way, logically, Ram Bhagwan cannot kill anti-hero, Prati Narayan in this case, but it is Lakshman. Okay, Arush, you are raising your hand, so please go ahead.
So if Ram did not want to kill him, Ravana, then why did he kill like the other like demons and monsters?
No, he did not. So that's what, right? So that's where I think the Jain version of the Ramayana is way different from the version of Ramayana that is followed in the Hindu culture that we are more familiar with, because we have seen it in videos. That's what we have been taught to us through different channels. As per Jain Ramayana, if you'll read it, you will find it, by the way, in English as well as in Hindi on the internet. You'll be surprised how different it is. And in that Ramayana, as per that Ramayana, Yes, Ram Bhagwan is considered as Maryada Purushottam. He fought for the rights of people. He actually led to their upliftment. He actually, raised his voice and his weapon only against when it was demanded by law. He was establisher of law as well. However, when it comes to the part of killing, there is a big lot of difference out there, right? That way, we do not, while we consider him as the epitome of law and authority and, of Maryada, that is boundaries, right? And rules, we do not consider him as a killer. Make sense? Okay. So that's the difference. Now, while we know about the Hindu Ramayana because of our general civilizational, shared civilizational values, we should make conscious effort to know our own Ramayana because that's our tradition, right? So who else will know about it if we don't? There are a few very good books which have been written by contemporary writers, and you can always refer back to them. There is one by Devdutt Patnaik. Although I have not read this book myself, but Nayak, but he kind of he has a one book dedicated to Jainism. He recently wrote, like, I don't know if it's yet out in the press, out of the press, but I think sometime this year, and maybe you can look for that book. It's in English. That's the only reason why I'm recommending it. Otherwise, we also have many versions of uh, uh, Padma Puran now translated into English. Now, if you'll go to even YouTube, you'll find those. Anyways, so that said, right? Now let's bring our focus back to Prati Vasudev is in this story, which is Ravan, right? That's where we started, right? So few facts. Ravan was a Prati Vasudev or Prati Narayan, right? That is anti-hero. Of course, anti-heroes have almost equal powers as the heroes, right? It's just that they are utilizing their powers and for the wrong reasons. They may have acquired those powers because of same past good karma coming to fruition, but they decided giving into their kashayas, krodh, man, maya, lobh, to utilize those powers for the wrong reasons. And that's why, they ended up, meeting their fate. Now they are in Narak because they committed crime, basically crime against humanity. Let me put it that way. Having said that, still Ravan, in before he got carried away by his Kashai, was a very revered soul. He was a pious person. He was dedicated to Bhagwan Shantinath. He, to the extent that he used his nerves when he was playing Veena, Rudra Veena, in doing his meditation singing for bhakti for Bhagwan Shantinath, the strings of that veena broke, and he used his veins and arteries or nerves. They use the term nadi, so which could mean either of them, to actually create the strings and then keep playing it. He had such immense dedication towards Jainism. He was a devout Jain. However, he got carried away by his emotions, his bhav, when he was supplied with some bad situations. That's what happened with people. It's always about how you react to your suffering. Even Ram had lots of suffering. If you look at it, his life was all defined by suffering. He was born rich, and he was made to leave on the eve of him taking on the eve of his coronation. His mom and dad asked him to give up all the kingdom and actually go to forest as a layman, right? As a sannyasi, as a sadhu, almost sadhu, right? So think of his life. Is that life that we would like? We always pray for more money, more comfort, and everything. And think of Ram's life. The important thing about Ram's character is when he was supplied with those situations, to those sufferings, his reaction was that of equanimity. of taking them positively and reacting to them very positively, and while doing that, staying law abiding and the establisher of the rules, right? That's why we call him Maryada Purushottam. On the contrary, the issue that happened with Ravan was he was also blessed with lots of powers because of his past karma, and he was a samyak drishti. He had so much of power that he reconquered the land that was lost by his forefathers. He re-established his kingdom, established that city of gold that it was. So basically, he had the power of administrating right, doing supporting a lot of trade and activities. Yet, when situations happened and he got his ego was kind of pinched. He decided to use his powers to abduct Sita, although he didn't do anything wrong to Sita because he was a good, he was a he himself had some principles which he was following, but because of his ego and the acts he did under the influence of that ego, he ended up meeting his fate, right? So again, that's what is very important. It is not how you react in good situations that define you. It's also how you react under suffering that define you, right? And Ramayana is all about that. The story of Ramayana, in fact, irrespective of whether you are following the Jain Ramayana or there are, by the way, multiple versions of Ramayana present in the world. Even in India, there are like, I don't remember the exact number, but it is in thousands. There are so many versions of Ramayans, right? So irrespective of whichever version of Ramayana you follow, Ram is always projected as a Narayan, as a hero, and Ravan is always, rather, a Balbhadra or a Narayan on the right side, and Ravan is always projected as a Prati Narayan, right? In fact, we also sometimes use the term Vishnu and Prati Vishnu, right? So that way, if Hindus say, "Oh, Ram and Krishna were the avatars of Vishnu," in Jain context, we say they were they were illustrious beings who had that title. So we don't say they were avatars, but we say they had that title. So like Ram had the title of Balbhadra, Lakshman had the title of Vishnu, and Ravan had the title of Prati Vishnu or Prati Vasudev or Prati Narayan or anti-hero. Okay. So in a very capsule form, I have given you some idea of the Jain Ramayana, which is called as Padma Puran. So look for that. You'll be, if you are into story reading, you'll find it very fascinating. And interestingly, the Padma Puran actually start with the introduction of Ravan first as a character. So before even Ram is introduced in that story, Ravan is first introduced, and it is projected how good he was. You'll be like totally confused. Oh, what is happening? Are we saying that Jains actually are sided with Ravan? No. The story actually goes in such a way that first he is established as a very revered and pious being, and then it is projected that how he got carried away by his kashai, by his bhavs, his lesha, and turned into a bad person, ending up on the wrong side of the law. That's what happens, right? That's the human story. Every person who is considered or is projected as a demon is not actually a demon. They are demon only because they got, they gave in to their kashai and ended up committing crime. There are so many people in the world who even have praise for Hitler, isn't it? Right? But if you look at it with the lens of history, I would not be on the side of Hitler. He committed so many grievous crimes, right? Same is the story here, right? Ravan as a character in that life form, he may have started very good, very humble being, humble starting and whatnot, but he ended up being on the wrong side of law. He gave in to his sufferings. He started using his sufferings as the moral, rationale to justify his wrongdoings. And that's why he ended up meeting his fate, right? So anyways, so I will take a pause here because I want to now play that story for you. But this background is very important, right? And the significance why we are covering this story now, as I said, is all because we just had this festival of Dashera. And in India, what happens is everyone gets carried away and they participate in burning of the effigies of Ravan and Meghnad and Kumbhakarna without knowing the background of that. I mean, we as a Jain should not participate in those activities of burning Ravan or burning Meghnad and Kumbhakarna. Actually, it is more damaging to burn the putla or effigies of Meghnad and Kumbhakarna, because they actually are in moksha. Like Ram Bhagwan, their souls are actually in moksha. They in the course of battle, at some point they had their calling, they got enlightened, they got vairagya, they turned into monks and then did penance and then they went to moksha. Should we be burning a putla of a soul that is in moksha? On one side, we do Namo Siddhanam, right? So we consider those souls to be Siddh. And on the other side, there are people or Jains, who participate in burning of those effigies. So that's the contradiction. And that's why it is very important that we should be aware of our culture, our side of story. It's first principle, right? Everyone knows about these stories from the vantage point of the majority. We may not be in majority at this point in time. At some point in time, Jains were, which doesn't matter. What matters is we should be aware of our traditions and our stories. Now you are familiar with it. So keep a tab on that. Try to investigate more. Get curious on knowing and learning this Padma Puran. And you'll find it very fascinating. Okay. Having said that, so let me see if I can play the video. The video is just a representation, but I hope you don't have any question here. So Shalaka Purush, important for you to understand. Shalaka Purush means 63 illustrious people whose life have created lessons for us. They are in themselves guidance. Now, one will argue, how can a life of a Prati Vasudeva, an anti-hero, be a lesson to you? Of course, right? You don't just learn from heroes, you also learn from anti-heroes what not to do, isn't it? So we have to learn what we should be doing, what we should be following, what should be our our role models, and we also should be knowing what should not be our role models. That's why these 63 Shalaka Purush and their life stories are so important for us. In the Pratmanu Yog, which is the body of knowledge of our agams, the first Aniyog, is all dedicated to the stories and the life lessons from those stories of these 63 Shalaka Purush. Now, there are other supporting Shalaka Purush also, which are sometimes called as 169 Mahapurush, but for another day. Okay, so now let me do a share of the. Okay, so I will start here. So this is what it is, right? So there is a Wikipedia page, by the way, about Shalaka Purush. You should read about this. I just copied something for you on the chat from there only. Okay, but again, this is not a source. There are many other sources that are referred from here, which are all taking you back to Jain Agam. But this is a good starting point. I know everyone is short on time. So let me do one thing before I do this. Let me see, share sound. Yeah, that's very important. Share, and let me go here. Okay, this.
Jai Jinendra, kids! All of you must have heard about Dasara. So today, let me tell you about Ravan. Ravan was a very brave king, and he even had knowledge of many shastras, meaning religious books. He had another name, Dashnan. What is the meaning of Dashnan? Dashnan comes from
Okay. Correction here. It's not Dashnan. It is Dashanan. What is it? Dashanan. Okay. Dashanan means one with 10 heads. Now, there is a very interesting scientific explanation for why he was called Dashanan. Not that he had 10 heads. Yes, he was born with a lot of powers because he was born in a category of human beings that is called as Vidyadhars, right? Who have some magical powers, but not to the order that he had 10 heads. There is some story. I'll let this story go on. So that's what Dashanan. Dashanan means Dash plus Anand, 10 header, right? One with 10 heads. That was his given name, by the way, not Ravan. As per Jain Ramayana, the given name of Ram was Padma and the given name of Ravan was Dashanan. Okay?
Das meaning 10, and Anan meaning face. You know why he was given that name? Well, Ravan was brave in his childhood. One day, he took a necklace having 9 precious gems which was guarded by 1,000 Nagkumar Devs, meaning snake gods. And then you know what happened? Baby Ravan's face started reflecting in the gems, so in total everyone could see 10 faces. And from then on, he started being called Dashnan. When he grew up, he started winning wars. Many kings were under his rule. Hence, Ravan became swollen with pride. One day, when he was passing through a forest, he saw a beautiful lady.
Okay, just one fact. So this story is a very compressed version of the Jain Padma Puran, hai na? So several of the facts on what led him to go, how did his ego swelled, and then why did he ended up abducting Sita? There are many pieces in the story that are missing here in this small 5 minutes video. So that's what I'm saying. If you really want to know Padma Puran, make your effort. Find it on Google and either read it or listen to it. Okay?
She was Ramji's wife, Sita, and he did something very wrong. He kidnapped Sita. For this reason, Ramchandraji and his brother Lakshman declared a war against Ravan, and that war went on for days. In the last few days of the war, when Lakshman and Ravan were fighting, you know what happened? Lakshman shot an arrow that cut Ravan's head, but something strange happened. Where his head was cut, 100 new heads grew. Lakshman attacked him again, and the bow cut Ravan's.
So by the way, this was also an illusion, right? Because he was blessed with many magical powers, he could create pretend heads. And what Lakshman was actually hitting was one of those pretend heads. Right. And as soon as the pretend head was gone, more pretend heads used to be created as an illusion by Ravan. So that was his magical power that he was blessed with, not that he was able to grow his head again and again. Okay.
Hand, but new hands grew. Do you know why this was happening, kids? Ravan had done sadhana, meaning penance, for many days and gained Barupani Vidya, a superpower.
It's actually Bahu Rupani Vidya. Bahu Rupani Vidya means he could, he was blessed with magical power through which he could transform himself. Like, he could create these illusions like a magician and, turn himself into whatever he wanted.
And with this Vidya, even after attacking Ravan multiple times, Lakshman couldn't kill Ravan. You know what happened next? Multiple attacks by Lakshman weakened Ravan's Vidya, and at last Ravan lost his superpower. Ravan got angry, and he called for his giant Sudarshan Chakra, a wheel-shaped weapon, with which Ravan had not lost one single war. As Ravan directed his chakra to Lakshman, it emitted strong flames. Lakshman tried his best to stop it. Ram, Shugriv, Bamandal, Vibhishan, Hanuman all tried in their own ways to stop it, but nobody could stop that chakra. And then that chakra swirled around Lakshman 3 times and came to rest on his finger. Ravan was taken aback. He started thinking, even Adinath Bhagwan's son, Bharat Chakravarti, was better than me. And he, in his last stage of life, opted for deep meditation of the soul and achieved moksha, meaning salvation. This wealth and kingdom is useless, and indulgence is going to make me lose this war. Lakshman directed that chakra towards Ravan. Like the thundering clouds, that chakra started moving towards Ravan. Ravan tried his best to stop the chakra. He showered a rain of arrows. He threw his Vajra weapon, and even his sword. But Ravan's good karma ran out, and that chakra cut through Ravan's chest. Ravan fell on the ground and died. Now you know, kids, how uncertain this world is, that such a strong ruler of 3 kingdoms, under whom there were so many kings, and who was so knowledgeable, despite having so many qualities that he could not control his ego, anger, and bad emotions, and he was killed. After dying, Ravan went to the 3rd hell, where he had to bear extreme torture and atrocities. Ravan, through deep dedication and meditation, had achieved Bahubani Vidya. However, if with this deep dedication he had done meditation for his soul instead, he would have achieved salvation. But he did it for worldly wishes, and he had to go to hell. Even now, people remember the victory of Ram and Lakshman. In the same way we show compassion towards a sick person, we should consider Ravan's ego and pride as his sickness, and should show compassion towards Ravan. We should let go of our own bad emotions. And the way Ramchandraji did tapasya during the last days of his life and achieved moksha and became liberated, we should take the same steps toward moksha. We will, right? Jai Jinendra, kids.
Make sense, bachon? Does this story make sense to you? It does, right? Okay, let me just get rid of the sharing. Okay. Can you stop sharing? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Sarthak, for the feedback, right? So that's what, right? And I was actually trying to look for that book by this gentleman called Devdutt Patnaik. He's like one of those very popular writers of the current times in India. Like he has written many mythological books in English, inspired by Hindu mythology generally. But recently he wrote 2 books which are actually inspired by Jain mythology. One of them is Bahubali, although it's not a story about Bahubali, just Bahubali. It's, I think, a story about the 63 illustrious Purush, the 63 Shalaka Purush. Okay. So again, I have not read this book. I'm not endorsing this book, but just that it is in English and it is inspired by a Jain context, probably you can look for it. But rather what I would prefer you doing is go to one of these sites where Jain stories are available and look for Padma Puran. Okay, that's Jain Ramayana. And like my son is very much into reading generally, right? So he likes to read mythology and everything, and I have given him also this as a topic to explore. Right, so he's about your age. He's a 9th grader, and he's an avid reader, a grotesque reader, actually. So probably, it will catch your attention and interest also if you are into reading. Okay. Having said that, any questions, beta? No questions, Arush, Mika, Praniti, Kavya, Sarthak. Okay. I think we are on, that was the main thing we wanted to cover today. Let me give you some references while we have some time in the chat, right? So I gave you this thing. Let's do a quick search. Okay. Give me a second. So here, Jain Padma Puran. This is where I found it. Let's see. Padma Puran by Ravi Senya. I was trying to locate if I could get to the Padma Puran, but somehow I'm not able to. So I'll just give the name and then you can search for it later. Okay. That's the one. And then the other thing was Devdutt Patnaik, 63, Bahubali. I'll just say Bahubali. So interestingly, he named the book Bahubali, although the book is all about, 63 Shalaka Purush. So let me see if I can find something on that. There are definitely content on about this. This is an article, but then you can probably get somewhere with this. This is a newspaper article reviewing his book, but probably this could be a good start for you to explore. Okay. Okay, beta. I know. I think we are on time. We are actually ahead of time. We had only had one thing to cover today. We will end today's session with the usual part. जावाणी के ज्ञान से सूझे लो कालोक ते वाणी मस्तक धरूं सदा देहूं धोक हे जिनवाणी भारती माँ तो हे जपूं दिन रैन जो तेरी शरण आ गए सो पावे सुख चैन उत्तम क्षमा टू ऑल ऑफ यू एंड आईड लाइक यू ऑल टू से जय जिनेन्द्र वंस
जय
Jai
श्री
जय
Jai
जिनेन्द्र बेटा
Jinendra.
जय जिनेन्द्र
Jai Jinendra.